everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Christina from CommunityConnect Labs. Today's webinar is titled Public Charge Resources for Public Health and Social Services. We're excited today to have two great speakers with us today. First of all, Hope Nakamura from San Mateo Legal Aid and Jacob Modell from CommunityConnect Labs. They're each going to share their expertise and insights into the recent ruling with public charge, as well as resources that are available for you. And our agenda today is going to start off with some insight on public charge. Where exactly are we today? Then, of course, some legal insight from Legal Aid San Mateo to share their insights, information, and best practices so far, as well as then we're going to bring on CommunityConnect Labs to share insight on their solutions that relate directly to public charge. And then at the end, we will open it up for Q&A from the audience. Thank you so much for joining us today. And so please take some notes while we're going through today's presentation, and we will open it up for questions at the very end. Thank you. And now I'd like to pass it over to Hope to get started with public charge.
Good morning. So the Supreme Court decision on January 27th eliminated the last nationwide injunction that was blocking the Department of Homeland Security's new public charge rule from taking effect. So for now, it's only blocked in Illinois for now. The ruling allows a new public charge test to be used for family-based green card applications filed on or after February 24th. And for applications that were filed before that date, the former test will still apply. So what does the new public charge rule do? So the public charge law has always required the agency to look at an immigrant's income, financial status, health, education, skills, family status, and affidavits of support to determine if someone's application should be denied because they think they're going to be a public charge in the future. For immigration applications or green card applications filed on or after the 24th, the new rule assigns weights to some of these factors to decide if someone is likely to become a public charge. For example, if your family's income is below 125% of the federal poverty level, that's weighed as a heavily negative. Also, having a health condition that interferes with work or school without private insurance to cover that is also considered a heavily negative factor. And finally, use of public benefits that are considered in the rule out of the past 36 months is also a heavily negative factor. The only heavily positive factor that could outweigh some of those heavily negative is having income over 250% of federal poverty level. And for a family of four, for instance, that means that they would have to have over $64,000 a year in annual income. The new public charge regulation also adds federally funded Medi-Cal, SNAP, or food stamps, and federal subsidized housing benefits to the list of benefits that could be considered under the public charge rule, whereas before it would just be limited to cash benefits and long-term care paid for by Medicaid. This rule is for immigrants who have applied for family-based green card applications who interview inside the United States. The public charge rules for immigrants who apply for a family-based green card and other visas outside the United States or who have to go outside for their interview are administered by the State Department. They also have public charge rules which are slightly different at this point, but they are going to be aligned with the Department of Homeland Security rules soon. So eventually they'll be the same, but for right now they are different. Materials by the protectingimmigrantfamilies.org are available to explain the rules and the changes if you want to get more detail. However, most of these materials are difficult for lay people who are unfamiliar with the rule to understand. So at Legal Aid, we developed a simple chart to help people quickly determine if their immigration status has a public charge test. Remember that the rule only applies to immigration application, to certain immigration application, which is where our text tool comes in. The chilling effect of public charge is that many legally, lawfully present immigrants and families with citizen kids think that they face a public charge test just by using benefits. But the trigger for the Department of Homeland Security and State Department public charge rule is the immigration application, and only particular immigration applications, not the benefits. The key is to make sure that those immigrants who don't face a public charge test know that they don't, so that they're not afraid to access benefits. But there are not enough legal services lawyers in the country to accommodate the need, and service providers and social services agencies feel like telling people which statuses are affected is legal advice. So the Legal Aid Society of San Mateo County, which is located in the Bay Area of California, developed two tools to help provide this information. One is a website called keepyourbenefitsca.org. The other, which we're talking about today, is a text tool. We're finding that the text tool, which is available in Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese, in addition to English, is being used in these languages more frequently than the web tool. So how do you use it? So what you do is you text these prompt words, depending on the language you want, to the phone number that's on your screen. And up comes this little friendly message from our Libre project, which is linking immigrants to benefits, resources, and education housed at Legal Aid. We've developed this website in conjunction with CCL and Protecting Immigrant Families and California Protecting Immigrant Families. After the prompts, you enter the letter next to the immigration status you want to learn about, and the response tells you if using benefits affects this status and which benefits count. You can easily retext benefits or the other prompt words to try a different status, thereby anonymizing your responses. So tips for facilitators who use this tool, it's reassurance, and we've seen in the beginning that this tool does not provide legal advice. The public charge rules and immigration rules are very complex and have changed. The tool doesn't attempt to explain the public charge rule, but simply explains what kind of benefits might be a problem depending on the immigration status that a person has. Every situation is different, and we urge people to consult an expert lawyer for specific advice if they have further questions. Tip number 2 is that the tool helps explain which immigration statuses are not affected, not necessarily, and which public benefits may have an impact. The tool doesn't cover every immigration status out there, but it mentions the more common ones that our low-income communities face. And a reminder is that public benefits is just one part of the public charge test. As I mentioned at the very beginning, other factors also are considered in determining whether public charge can be used as an excuse to deny a green card application. Our general message is eligibility rules for public benefits have not changed. Immigrants who were eligible for benefits before are still eligible, and that most immigrants who face the public charge test aren't actually eligible for the benefits that could affect their immigration status. So it's important to use the tools that we have out there to help families determine whether or not they will be affected. And significantly, the benefits used by family members are not counted, except that immigrants applying through a consulate face different and changing rules. So we typically refer those people to get an immigration consultation. And in general, we want people to talk to an immigration expert if they have further questions about using the benefits. Oops. And now we'll turn it to Jacob at CCL.
Great. So let me just share my screen. And thank you, Hope. So before we dive in, just a little bit of background about what we do at CommunityConnect Labs when we're not working on issues like public charge. We provide other tools for low-income heating and energy assistance. We're doing some work in the US 2020 census and census outreach. And in general, what we try to do is provide simple mobile message-based experiences, including SMS and other channels in multiple languages. The reason why we do that is we try to meet people where they are. We know people work different schedules, so the ability to have these tools available 24/7 instead of hours where government offices or nonprofit offices are open really helps some people. And we also try to make these tools confidential so people can stay as safe as possible and feel safe and confident using these tools. So to do that, we collect the minimal personally identifiable information that we can in order to provide services, and are pretty careful with the sort of language and design of tools that way. So for public charge assistance, you know, one of the things that we were hearing from organizations like Bay Area Legal Aid and others is that it's really helpful to have a sort of multilingual and confidential screening tool in order to understand benefits. These rules are confusing, and as Hope mentioned, don't affect a lot of people. So doing some sort of triage to make sure that the people who could be affected get the services that they need are really important. And we also know that particularly for immigrant communities, channels like mobile messaging are really comfortable interfaces for folks to use because they use them every day to communicate with family members and other folks. So providing a service that was available through text messaging with a text messaging type interface is just incredibly empowering rather than navigating to a website or downloading files, things that folks, particularly if they're eligible for public benefits, may not be familiar with because of digital divide issues, or may also just be additional barriers to getting this information. So we built this mobile messaging based chatbot that empowers organizations to deploy it through their staff as well as directly to beneficiaries to actually do these sort of screenings really efficiently and getting directed to the right resources depending on their situation. So how does it work? So as Hope mentioned with Project Libre's tool, it's very, very simple and it's fast. It only takes a couple of minutes. An individual can text to a designated number or we'll also show a web chat version as well to start the process. You answer a few questions, either about themselves or about the person that they're screening for, and we'll talk a little bit more why we chose that language. They go through a decision tree that then describes their situation, and they can be referred to local pro bono legal aid if available, that's location based. So we just ask for someone's zip code. Part of the reason we use zip code is because we've found in our other work that it's something that people know, but it's also something people feel safe disclosing because it doesn't sort of identify their home address or other things that might be more revealing in keeping with our goal of keeping responses confidential. So I'm going to start by showing what the actual web chat version of this looks like on my computer and also on my mobile phone. So 1 second. So this is an example of our chat widget, and this could be installed really on any website. So this is what it looks like open on a desktop. And then the text for this example is in English and Spanish. So to start off, just choose your language. And so let's just say, like many folks are, lawful permanent residents, LPRs. You just go through this screening experience. After it asks about the person that you're asking about, if they're a LPR, it gives information about public charge and benefits. So in this case, it doesn't affect renewal of a citizenship application for LPRs. That said, there are some special circumstances, such as if the person is leaving the US for 6 months or more, then that could affect benefits. So there's an additional question. So let's just say they're applying outside. These rules are different, so we see that. And then you're prompted to ask for a zip code. We then can direct you, so I'm just gonna type in a zip code, in this case to Bay Area Legal Aid. And we can provide phone number, website, in language as well. And that's really it in terms of the experience. There are obviously other statuses that you could check. And so this is what the experience would look like on a tablet or on a laptop. I also wanted to show you on my cell phone, we've made the tool really mobile optimized. So, you know, this looks like almost a text messaging interface. And similarly, you have buttons, or you can type a message as well. And you get the same exact experience. And this is multilingual as well. So that's what it would look like in Spanish. So that's the web chat channel, which once again works either on desktop or it is optimized for mobile. Let me quickly go back to our text messaging demo, which you're welcome to try if you want. I will also go through that on my cell phone. So this is the text message experience. There's a simple start word, in this case, benefits, but that's customizable depending on what messaging you're doing. You can then have a little graphic. And this is an example from Libre project. And it's the same type of experience, and this is through SMS, through text messaging. What's nice about this, and there's some subtle differences, for example, for compliance, we include message and data rates may apply, and there's some subtle differences in the actual user experience. But what is nice is that the data all comes back into one place. You'll notice that with the questions that we're asking, we are not asking about the person who's actually filling out this screener, in part to make it more confidential and also more flexible. That way, if you are working with public health workers, nonprofit workers, other employees, something that we've heard from our user testing is it's really important to potentially have those folks fill out the screener, because some people are fearful enough where they don't even want to fill out these anonymous screeners on their own devices. So we tried to make that flexible. Let me return to the presentation. And certainly if you have questions, if things come up, feel free to put them in the chat as we're going. Okay. So as a case study with our work with legal aid, the target audience for that work had been people who are unaware of how the really complicated rules might affect their immigration status and potential applications for things like green cards and other visas. The result is the tool's been used by over 200 folks. Most people actually do go until the end, though about 20% do drop off. And this is a great way to really try to reduce fear, to make sure that people, which as Hope mentioned, the majority of people are not affected by these rules. It is a small but important slice. So this tool enables to rapidly do that triage to enable people to get to services if they need them, or just be reassured about using public benefits if they're not affected by this rule. And I know I've said this a bunch of times, but I just want to reiterate that public charge is confusing and is also changing. So one of the benefits of building these kind of tools is we have a centralized place where we can make those updates, and then they can get disseminated to users without a lag. So typically, if you're having community health workers, nonprofit outreach workers, what have you, go into the community and try to educate people, if there's a rule change, if there's a new decision, there's a webinar, there's training, there's additional documentation that goes out about those rule changes. That information often gets out of date very quickly. Also, every time there's a change, you have to do it again. One of the nice things about doing these with these mobile messaging based tools is if folks are using the tools for the screeners can be updated with changes in language, with changes in status, that type of thing very quickly. And so it's just part of the normal business process. Those education webinars and other things will still need to be done, but this is a way to ensure that information gets out there very quickly. Okay. So let me turn it over, back over to Christina to finish things up.
Thank you very much. So as we are wrapping up, let's look at this as to why now? Where are we today? What is going on? We all know there are a lot of things. Everyone is really busy. There's so many events and activities that are top priority now. From flu season to the coronavirus outbreak to ongoing programs and timelines in your calendar. Specific to public charge, the impact will increase in late February with more facts and details in consideration. We hope that today's insights provided from legal aid combined with the solution from CommunityConnect Labs has been helpful for you. At this time, we'd like to open it up for some questions from the audience. So we will have a brief pause right now as we're going to organize those. So please, if you have any questions for us, feel free to send them in and we will organize them and share them with you. Okay, this is Christina. I'm back on, and we're going to start with some of our questions. First of all, I'd like to ask one question, and we're going to have Kristen from our team at Community Connect Labs answer the first one. And that is, do you need a data plan to use this? Pass it over
Thanks,
to you.
Thanks, Christina. Yeah, that's an excellent question. I know that one of the concerns that comes up when folks are thinking about leveraging a tool that uses text messaging to support folks, how does that impact their data, since we know a lot of people are using their cell phones as their primary source of access to the internet. The good news with an SMS-enabled program like this is that it doesn't require any data if you have a mobile messaging plan on your phone. And we have also found that most folks have plans that include unlimited texting. Not everyone, but the vast majority of phones these days do enable unlimited text messaging with their data plans. So that would not require any use of data from people's phones on that. If we are directing them to a website, however, and if they are not logged on to a Wi-Fi connection, then they would potentially be using some data from their phones there. But one of the reasons why we have developed this in conjunction with both SMS texting and a web chat feature is that people can then be directed to places where they can access the information and get the answers they need without having to leverage any of the data from their individual cell phone plans.
Great, thank you so much. The next question we're going to cover is from the participants out there. Does this tool include information for referrals across the country? Could people anywhere in the US use this? I'll pass this one over to Hope.
Hi, so yes, the tool referral link will be updated so that when people put in their zip code, they will be directed to legal services or immigration legal services across the country that are local to or closest to their zip codes. It's not currently in effect right now. So the tool can be used in other states. But we are encouraging, because our list includes California specific names for the benefits, in addition to the federal names. Other states or other people in other states might want to contact CCL to develop a tool where they could put in their own state programs.
And as a follow-up, this is Christina. The way you can get in touch with us is contact us. We'll have this on our closing slide as well. info@CommunityConnect Labs, and we can discuss your specific needs and timelines, and we can gladly work with you together on the next steps. Okay, one other question that came in is about the privacy. How do you ensure the privacy? And I'll pass this one over to Kristen.
Sure. So one of the first things that Jacob alluded to when it comes to privacy and the collection of all of this data is the fact that we do not want to collect personally identifiable information in the first place. Throughout the questions that are asked of the user who's going through the experience, as you could see there, we obfuscated a number of those questions, asking about, does the person that this could affect be impacted, rather than saying, do you meet any of these qualifying factors there? So there's a reasonable ability there to say that it's not you, and there's some deniability there in mind. So with that, that's the very first thing we do, is we try not to collect that information from folks in the first place. And then the data that's saved through this is only the phone number from the user, and then any other local data for the client, such as state or zip code for reporting purposes. But then we are also working with individual agencies and folks who we were talking to about actually deleting and removing this data altogether. So it's never data that's going to be repurposed for any other reason than helping these individuals understand whether or not they're impacted by public charge.
Great, thank you. And let's give it another moment really quick. Any other questions from the audience? I know we still have quite a few of you online, so we hope that this discussion today has sparked some ideas out there. Let's give it a pause to see if any other questions might come in. Okay, with that in mind, we want to thank everyone for participating today, from our panelists sharing their expertise and their insights on this new ruling and how it can be addressed in your communities, as well as everyone who joined us today from across the country. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us on the next slide. Actually, there is the info@communityconnectlabs.com. Feel free to email us directly, as well as visit our website where you can learn more about our new public charge offering. Thank you very much. Have a great day.